Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to the Ascension Chambers 2019 Parish President Candidate Forum. My name is Barker Derman, and I'm the President and CEO of the Ascension Chamber of Commerce, and I will be serving as a moderator for today's forum. Now, let me welcome and introduce our candidates. Mr. Clint Quintmaw. Mr. Quintmaw is a native of Ascension Parish, where he grew up in Bon Terre subdivision. He is the youngest of Willard and Ruby Quintmaw's 4 children, and he attended St. Teresa's School in the heart of Gonzales. Mr. Quintmaw's first job was as a rodman in his father's company, surveying properties throughout the parish. He graduated from UL Lafayette before obtaining his professional surveyor's license from Nicholls State University. In 2007, Mr. Quintmaw purchased a family surveying business where he has continued to practice as a professional surveyor in Ascension Parish for nearly 2 decades. Mr. Ricky Diggs. Mr. Diggs has served as an associate minister at New Mount Calvary Baptist Church for 16 years. He is retired from the United States Navy after 29 years of service. He is also a retired teacher, coach, and in-school suspension facilitator at Prairie View Middle School. Mr. Diggs served 6 years with the Capitol Police and is currently the Senior Maintenance, Turnaround, and Capital Project Coordinator for Turner Industries. Mr. Murphy Painter. Mr. Painter is a lifelong resident of Ascension Parish. He began his public service career at 18 years old as a full-time deputy for the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office. He continued his career in law enforcement, serving as the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Chief Deputy for 15 years and as Commissioner of the Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control for another 15 years. Mr. Painter earned an associate degree in law enforcement from Southeastern University and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's in public administration from LSU. He is also a graduate of the FBI National Academy and FBI Law Enforcement Executive Management Institute. Mr. Painter currently runs a national regulatory, compliance, and consulting and private investigation company. He is married to Tanya Bro Painter. They share 5 children, 5 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Mr. Rick Weber. Mr. Weber is a lifelong resident of Ascension Parish and has been married to his wife Jackie for nearly 38 years. They have a daughter, Jordan, and a son, Wyatt. Mr. Weber worked in the petrochemical industry prior to enlisting in the U.S. Army in 1984. He served for over 21 years with the Military Police Corps and Recruiting Command. His final assignment was with the Office of Military Cooperation in Kabul, Afghanistan. Prior to his retirement in 2005, Mr. Weber earned an associate degree in business studies, a bachelor's degree in business administration, and a master's in business administration. He is also an FAA certified private pilot. For the past 13 years, Mr. Weber has served the parish as director of the Ascension Parish Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Welcome, candidates.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we engage the candidates in opening statements and the Q&A, I'm just going to go over the rules of order for the forum. Each candidate will be asked to give a 3-minute opening statement, which will be given in reverse alphabetical order. So we will start with Mr. Weber. Following the opening statements, I will then ask the candidates 6 questions focused on the 3 primary issues outlined in the Ascension Chambers local election platform, which all candidates were provided before the forum. The questions will be asked in alphabetical order, and that order will rotate, giving each candidate the opportunity to answer at least 1 question first. For example, Mr. Quintmaw will be the first to answer question 1, followed by Mr. Diggs, Mr. Painter, and Mr. Weber. Mr. Diggs will be the first to answer question 2, followed by Mr. Painter, Mr. Weber, Mr. Quintmaw, so on and so forth. Any questions?
No.
At the conclusion of the Q&A, the candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Time will be kept using the clock here in the council chambers, so y'all see it in front of you. You are not required to use the entire amount of time allotted, but if your time does expire, you will hear a beep, and I will ask you to quickly wrap up your answer. All right, so let's move on to opening statements. Candidates. Ascension Parish has experienced unprecedented growth over the last decade. While this growth has certainly been a positive thing for our parish, We are now experiencing what some would call growing pains as a result. In your opening statements, I would ask that you share with us your vision for Ascension Parish in the next 10 years. So, Mr. Weber, would you please start us off?
Yeah, I'm Rick Weber. I'm not wealthy. You know, I've never been wealthy, and I never will be wealthy because I've dedicated my entire adult life to public service. I served 21 years on active duty with the U.S. Army, and I've got one combat tour in Afghanistan. I've got 3 college degrees, one of them being an MBA. I earned all of those on active duty. I was your Homeland Security Director for nearly 13 years and led an office that implemented best practices and had world-class performance. I led an office that still has the confidence of the Parish Council and gained a very high level of public trust here in Ascension Parish. I had a position of responsibility and authority that I knew that if I ever misled the public, I would immediately lose their public trust. I could not have handpicked a better job to suit me. Even though I love my job, enough was the word that I used when I resigned my position as your Homeland Security Director. Enough, even though all I had to do was keep my head down and my mouth shut for 36 months, and I could have drew my retirement, my parish pension, and retired. I said enough to weak leadership, enough to lack of standards, enough to failing to negotiate the best deal for the taxpayers. You know, what I saw coming down the political tracks in this race was just more of the same. You know, 2 candidates that are politically indebted that's impossible to lead or manage, candidates that are backed by special interests that will never place the best interest of the taxpayer in mind. Now, we're about to discuss some really complex, expensive challenges that Ascension Parish is about to go through. But I seem to be the only candidate that realizes that leadership and the great management of the operating systems of Ascension Parish government is the only solutions to these problems. And what we need is a parish president that can break the destructive cycle of reactive management and replace it with professional management that is laser focused on the long-term goals and objectives of Ascension Parish, similar to growth. Ascension Parish needs a parish president that will break the cycle of poor leadership development. That's something that we really need to focus on. And we got 3 warning signs of that: high turnover, low morale, lack of collaborations. Well, these sirens have been going off and sounding for years. We need to shut these sirens down. Well, I'm Rick Weber, and I'm the most experienced, educated, and best qualified to do this. Now, where do we look at in about 10 years? If you look at what State Senator Rick Ward did with his bill, Bill 488, that's where I see us in about 10 years. That was a bold move that he did, and I really like it. What that bill states is he created the bridge district, and it's going to run an interstate system from Port Allen down the West Bank and a southern bridge across Ascension Parish. Well, what's going to do 2 things major for Ascension Parish. What's it going to do is going to connect the West Bank to I-10, and it's going to force them to improve Highway 30. The second thing that it's going to do is reduce the traffic that we have going through Prairieville. So this is a long-term, long-range project, but this is something that we need to back up and support. We need to make sure that we can eventually it's going to the voters, so we need to be able to explain the facts, evidence, and benefits to the public so they can vote for it and get that moving.
Thank you, Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
I see us today at a crossroads here in Ascension Parish, and maybe we've been at that crossroads for a little while now. Unbridled growth, not necessarily anybody else's fault, other than that we have a great and wonderful parish. We have great and wonderful people here. We have a great school system that has brought people here. I've been here in public service for over 40 years, involved in just about every aspect of Ascension Parish, economics and politics during that time. And this is not the first time that growth has been an issue in this parish or that we've had to deal with it. When the interstate came through in 1971 through 74, it created a growth pattern that moved the economic system from the west side of the river to this side and the political power from the west side to this side. Where I see Ascension Parish or where I see my goals in Ascension Parish, I don't see us killing the geese that have laid the golden egg in any kind of way. The studies show or say that there's supposed to be another 55,000 people that move in this parish in the next 25 years. So let's just say part of that in the next 10 years is 10 or 15,000 more people. We have 1,500 kids graduating from high school every year from our high schools that have a demand for housing, have a demand for a place to stay, and for jobs. So I would look for us to increase or completely motivate the economic situation of finding jobs for those kids, our kids coming here so they don't have to move off anywhere. I also like to see maybe moving away from some of the petrochemical situations, especially on the West Bank, that would bring that labor force that is very much in need of a labor force on the west side of the river for a job, and maybe a VOTEC school on that side also. I fully 1,000% would want to stand up and support a West Bank Expressway, because if you do that, that's going to turn the whole economics of the other side of the river on. And I don't think that the solution to our traffic situation is based on us continuing to funnel traffic into a very narrow corridor, and regardless of what you do with it, that's gonna solve the problem. But in 10 years, I would like to see us having smart growth, having subdivisions with bigger lots, fewer density situations, and I'd like to see us with a transportation infrastructure that is, the thought process is that when we build it, we're building it with capacity for 10 years out or 15 years out, instead of trying to catch up like we have been. And maybe because of that, it's going to be almost impossible for a while to get back on top of that curve. I want to definitely maintain our school system the way it is. And if we overcrowd the school system too much, then we will kill that golden egg.
Thank you, Mr. Painter. Mr. Diggs?
Good afternoon to everyone. I'd like to say first, I'm a minister. I believe in God. I put God first, and I include him in all that I do. It helps me to treat people the way I want to be treated. It helped me to love students and mature them and raise them in a God-fearing manner. It helped me to respect my fellow or parish members by putting God first in my life. And I don't choose who to love. It doesn't make a difference of the color, the race, or what they have. We need to learn to come together and to love one another. I bring a message of unity to the parish. I see the parish as being divided. I see partial work going on in one area and the other areas being ignored completely. I don't see new development as a golden goose. I see new development as something that our forefathers looked for. Our mothers' mothers and fathers' father who purchased land and who set land up where their children can live on that land and work that land. That's the golden goose. The golden goose are the people who went before us that caused us to be in the situation that we're in now, where we have a good school system, a parish where drugs, a parish where crime rate is down, a parish that has a good quality of life. We owe that to our foreparents. And I ask that we go back to what we used to do. Come together in a manner to bring the parish together where we treat the whole parish as a whole. I look at 10 years as being a short span. I think we need to plan for 30 to 40 years so that we can make preparation for the next generation coming. My name is Ricky Diggs again. I've served in the military for 29 years. Those 29 years, I had a top secret clearance the whole time. While serving in the military, I went to school, I taught school, and I was a vital part in my community to help build it. After the military, I started working for Turner Industry. I went from a safety supervisor to a safety manager, and now I'm the senior coordinator for Turner Industry over maintenance and turnaround. And I possess a unique talent. The reason I'm the senior coordinator is that I bring people together. A lot of the jobs I go on, they're huge jobs, $10, $15 million job. You have to maintain that budget. You have to maintain a time consistency and schedule. Along with that, you also have to work with people. People from different countries, from different areas, but we all have to work together.
Thank you, Mr. Diggs.
Thank you.
Mr. Quintmall?
Good evening. I want to address something before I start in the future, in the next 10 years. It seems like we have this idea that if somehow you take contributions from citizens or businesses that support a fair bidding process, that somehow you're compromised. I just want to assure the people of Ascension Parish, nobody, and when I tell you nobody tells me what decisions I make, nobody. Okay? I stand for one thing and one thing only, and that's the people of this parish. And that's the people I'm going to fight for. Matter of fact, I've been fighting for them a long time. We can go back to the first master plan, and we can look at videos about a first master plan that wanted one house per 10 acres out in Sanamon. And I can tell you, people in Sanamon didn't want it. And I can show you other areas where densities were 15 units per acre. Okay, and the people in those areas didn't want that either. Been fighting for flooding issues way before the Great Flood of 2016 came around. Okay, seems to be a hot topic now, right? Everybody wants to talk about flooding. Well, I can tell you what, just go back and take a look. I've been talking about maintenance programs. I've been talking about wasting money on studies and studies of studies. Okay? We can talk about traffic, finance. Where was everybody at when Quick Take was coming around? Who was fighting for the people then? And that's the thing about elections. They all seem to bring in new faces. But I tell you what, I've been in the fight. Okay, I've been here. And as far as qualifications go, I'm going to hire the best of the best. I'm going to hire people with great integrity, intelligent, good character, and the willingness to see that this parish succeeds. But you know what qualification that I possess? Is to put people first. And that's the most important qualification. Now, as far as moving forward, and my clock is not running, just to let you know. As far as the next 10 years, well, we got to build trust back in government, and we have to do something about unbridled growth, because that contributes to the two most important issues in Ascension Parish, traffic and drainage. If we don't grow in a responsible manner, we're simply going to outgrow ourselves. And you won't be able to get around. It will hurt business. We have to put the proper infrastructure in. We've got to support the amount of cars on our roads, and we must do that first before we move forward with more development. When it was asked, and it was, I don't know, somebody said 50,000, it was 40,000 at the master plan. 40,000 new people are going to move here. Where are you going to put them? How about Livingston? How about Iberville? How about St. James? We have to decide as a community what we want to be. Do we want to be Baton Rouge? Do we want to be some Metairie? What do you want to try to retain some rural character here? You have to decide what we want to be moving forward, and that's why this election is so crucial. Because everybody who's lived here in the past 10 years know how much growth we have experienced. And on our state highways, every subdivision dumps out on our state highways. They simply can't handle it. Parish government don't have the money to fix it. So what's the solution? Where are you going to get the money? If you don't grow in a responsible fashion, we're just simply going to outgrow ourselves. And our kids and grandkids, they're going to move somewhere else. Okay? And they're already started. One thing that I have heard more this go around than it last in 2015, lifelong citizens, I can't wait to get out of here, out of Ascension. I, personally, am tired of hearing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinmall. Now we're going to move on to the question and answer portion of the forum. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to start with Mr. Quinmall and go alphabetical order. So Mr. Quinmall, a recent survey of our chamber members identified traffic congestion and failing road infrastructure as the greatest threat to business growth here in Ascension Parish. If elected, how will you address the traffic problems in our parish? And in your answer, please address both local and regional solutions.
Yeah. And just as I mentioned before, okay, it starts with slowing development down at a rate to where we can balance out infrastructure projects. We have 8 to 10 million that we take in for roads a year, okay? We can go for matching funds, but the majority of our issues and the time you spent sitting on asphalt is on state highways, okay? So we have got to work closely with DOTD and actually piggyback some of their projects and add in turn lanes and move traffic counts. We've spent $800,000 on a traffic master plan. Well, it's about time we start using it, okay? Because $800,000 can go a long way. So it's about time we start using it, identifying the intersections that we can do for improvement, and work with DOTD very closely. On a regional level, I support any project that moves traffic, whether that's a new bridge over the Mississippi River, which is a federal project, and I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, I hope so, but that's a federal project. Highway 30 and widening is going to be great for the petrochemical industry and one of our largest parts of our tax base. But again, that's a state highway. As a parish president, all we can do is work with our state representatives to ensure that we're getting as much as our taxes back into Ascension Parish as we can to work on our state roads and improving traffic counts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Diggs?
I see the traffic problem as something that we need to investigate, and we need to data. We need to use scientific data as to how much traffic is going on each road to work out a way to repair these roads, and not only repair them, but make improvements to them that will last. Instead of working just in one section, and once the road is repaired, you can't tell it's been repaired. It doesn't add any value to the capacity of the traffic flowing on it. It doesn't give you any additional turning lanes, and it doesn't widen it. I think our traffic problems, we need to look at slow the growth rate down, slow it down till we can get to the point where new development pays for the improvement to the infrastructure before they're allowed to develop the project. For example, on Highway 44, the Conway project, the 4-lane highway should have been in before the work started on that development. If that would have been in, we wouldn't be putting a burden on the people who live in the area who's been using that road constantly. It'll already be improved for the new development. I think we need to develop ways where new development pay for the burdens that they put on the infrastructure before they start the building process. I think we need to work together with the state and federal, and we need to, instead of piecemealing our roads, we need to develop a system where we have a system on the highway where we have interchange that are conducive for traffic. We need to also take into consideration pedestrians walking and bicycle lanes. Those are some things that we've been neglecting, but as the future grows, we're going to need those things in place. So I say improve our highways to the point where they're good for the next 30 years and put pedestrian walkways and cycling.
Thank you, Mr. Diggs. Mr. Painter?
Well, certainly if we had enough money, we could solve just about every problem that's there, and we could have turning lanes, bicycle lanes, and everything else. The master plan says right now, traffic master plan, that we're $40 million short a year in traffic funding. One thing that's never been talked about in any forum, in the next 4 or 5 years, the state is getting ready to turn over another 19 or 20 state roads over to the parish, for the parish to start maintaining those roads also. Now, we're going to get some state money for that, but will it be enough? No. Another thing, everybody talks about multi-million-dollar budget for the parish. There's actually only about $25 million a year, maybe a little bit more than that, of unencumbered money in that budget in order to deal with all the needs of the parish. So I would like to go in and identify if there's any waste, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there is, or anybody's doing anything wrong they're not supposed to, but I'd like to go in there and identify every dollar that's in that budget for the public to see. And then to also do the data, because I'm a data guy. That's what my degree is in, public administration, and asking the right questions, finding the right data, and show it to the people, how much money you have, what the problems are, and see what the solutions are. Now, like again, money is what solves all that. We have to get with the state delegation, the representatives and senators, and we got to get them all on the same page to maybe even hold their nose every now and then, but to support something on the state level where the governor and everybody else in the state will support giving us some money. One of the other main problems is that our traffic is what's called peak traffic problems. It's only in the morning or in the evening. In the middle of the day, you don't really have that many problems. So I would also try to say, and have what's called intervention situations in the meantime, where we're trying to find this money, where we coordinate all the lights and try to get the traffic moving from that point of view, and maybe even some law enforcement intervention of working traffic to get that traffic moving.
Thank you, Mr. Painter. Mr. Weber?
You know, as I mentioned earlier, that Act 48 is something that we need to take a look at. But what we really need to do is stop looking at these projects as competing projects. We need to look at them as complementary projects. We need to be able to negotiate multi-jurisdictionally to get these things done and resolve these regional issues. But fact check me on something. Write this down, 02-499, 02-499. That is a budget code for our engineering department. And prior to the last election, we had a full engineering department with about a $1.4 million budget, and we had a personnel summary of about 23 personnel. Well, in 2016, if you look at the budget, 2017, it had a balance of 0 and a personnel summary of 0. And then we spent $8.6 million, which is 6% of our annual budget, on engineering contracts to 11 different engineering firms after we dismantled the engineering department. What I'd like to do as parish president is reassemble that engineering department and bring in professional design engineers that can build construction capacity back internally into parish government. We need to be able to rehab smaller roads ourselves to build some operational capacity in what we do in public works. Because if we do that, we build financial capacity to try to cover this $40 million gap that we have in roads. Second to that is I'd like to advise the transportation committees and the council on developing some transportation corridor districts, not just 3 big areas where we're applying impact fees. Right now, we only have 3 areas where we're applying the transportation impact fees, 1 on the West Bank and 2 on the East Bank. If we look at future transportation corridors where we're going to move a lot of traffic, a massive amount of traffic, and let's start applying those impact fees in those areas where we have the most impact to transportation. So look, take a look at it from this point of view. We need to have somebody in place that can coordinate with multiple jurisdictions, that can coordinate with our state legislative delegation, that'll stop looking at these transportation projects as competing projects and look at them as a complementary project.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Moving on to the second question of the forum, Mr. Diggs, you will be the first to answer this question. Since the Great Flood of 2016, many business owners and residents in the parish are concerned about the risk of future flooding. As parish president, how will you address stormwater drainage issues in Ascension Parish?
I don't think it's a simple problem. Water is a great force, and each area has a unique way to work with it for the flooding. I think we need some engineers. I think we need certified personnel in flood prevention to come in and work with each section. One thing I would put in place right away is to work with our neighboring parishes, work with them to the point where we can develop a system where we all benefit from it. Instead of trying to be one parish, trying to develop a flood plan or flood prevention plan, I would work with all 5 parishes to prevent a plan that we can help to try to prevent flooding.
Thank you. Mr. Painter?
Well, first off, I differentiate stormwater flooding or flooding drainage issues based on drainage problems and backwater flooding. And both of them are important, but one you can do more about maybe than the other. And also, I don't want to necessarily take the authorship or credit for the idea, but the present council put in the last couple of years a drainage maintenance program. And what I would want to do is to increase the amount of money that we put in that drainage maintenance program and get it finished, where we do a complete drainage overhaul from Sorrento area all the way up to Prairieville, where the system is working, and it'll be the first time in 50 years of anybody's lifetime, I believe, that would be done. Once we do that, we'll see whether the system is really working and functioning based on gravity, that water flows downhill, and we have the grades and all that stuff going the way that it's supposed to. And very possibly, that in itself might take care of the 5 or 6 inch rains that put everybody in a PTSD mode every time you see a storm coming up.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Weber?
I mean, flash flooding and backwater flooding, riverine flooding, and coastal flooding are massively different things. You know, I've got a couple of candidates in the race that they like to tell stories, you know, but a lot of these stories are fairy tales. I got one that thinks that he can stop the snow from falling in a winter storm, or stop debris from moving around and wind damage from a hurricane, or stop 2,200 square miles of Amite River Basin from rolling out of its banks and flooding the alluvial plain that 56% of Ascension Parish is currently located in. Well, that's not going to happen. In Ascension Parish, just like every other county in this country, there's a risk assessment done. Now, on the West Coast, they're subject to earthquakes and wildfires and mudslides, and not so much in Ascension. We're subject to hurricanes, tropical storms, flooding, things of that nature. Now, when 2,200 square miles of basin is coming your way into the alluvial plain on a flat area, it's pretty difficult to stop. Now, we've got to make sure that we got all of our flood control infrastructure in place, that we're supporting the Amite River diversion, that we're reducing the level of floods in Ascension Parish as much as we can, and that we're managing the floodplain. Now, if you own a house that was purchased before the NFIP program was put in place, normally it's a single-family occupied house. And if that slab has not moved 1 inch and it flooded in 2016, and we get a flood of the same magnitude in 2016, probability is that that house is going to flood again unless you either get it above the BFE or out of the floodplain. As parish president, I need to make sure that I work with all of the residents of Ascension Parish while we improve our infrastructure, is to make sure that you educate it on how you protect you, your wife, your family, and your property. You need to make sure that that you're involved in an NFIP program pre-event, because that qualifies you for all funding post-event. So I want to educate the public on the CRS. I want to educate the public on what they need to do to protect their family, their property inside of this floodplain, because we definitely have to manage the floodplain moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Mr. Quinlaw?
Okay, I view stormwater drainage different than just drainage. We've just hired Ascension Parish in April of this year a stormwater program manager, and his job is to ensure that the construction and destabilization of earth and the construction process is managed. We've had several developments that have had their runoff into our canals and ditches, which has reduced our capacity. Oak Grove Townhomes into 2009, Brookstone, Miller Cove, Stony Point, all of these have issues with putting their fill into our waterways, reducing capacity and causing flooding issues and problems. So I consider that an enforcement issue. Okay, now when we talk about the flood of 2016, we're talking about projects. And the people of this parish want to know, what are you going to do to keep me from flooding? And that's two-part. That's major projects, and then that's maintenance. And so when I came out a long time ago, I've been preaching the maintenance program forever, way before 2016. We talked about the parish employees running the systems, identifying problems, parish employees putting in the work orders. Unlike the current system today where people call. Well, when do they call? They call after the storm. The maintenance program is to ensure that these problems and issues are solved and fixed before the storms. It's being proactive rather than reactive. And that's the difference. And so when it comes, it's clearing culverts, enlarging culverts. It's ensuring that off-road ditches are clean. And it has to be done in a certain way, in a certain project. And it will be identified on the website of where the crews are and where they're maintaining, so that people, the parish, can know that their tax dollars are being wisely spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinball. Third question of the night is going to go to Mr. Painter first. Mr. Painter, do you support the Ascension Master Plan recently adopted by the Parish Planning Commission? And if so, how do you plan to use it to create smart growth development strategies and practices to manage future growth in the parish?
You gave me the loaded question, huh? I support any plan, and I would say that there was a lot of time and effort that was put into the master plan. Do I agree with everything in it that's there? No. Is it a permanent fixture that everybody has to live with forever and ever? And the answer to that is no. Also, it's simply a plan, which means that all the other functions of government, the planning and zoning group, the council, and everybody else still has a right to override or change that plan at any time. But it is a plan, and the purpose of it, as far as I understand, was that in order for us to move forward with trying to get monies to solve some of the problems that we had, because I think if you peel things back, you're going to find out that there's not a whole exorbitant amount of money here to deal with the multi-million-dollar problems that we have. So it's the plan was put in place in order to have a plan to bring to the federal government and other sources in order to try to get money to bring down here and solve some of the problems. I support that concept of the master plan. I still think that some of it needs to be possibly changed. I'll never agree with 10 houses or 8 houses being on an acre with the density issues that we have. And I would like to use that as a model, but also get in there and change some of the stuff that's in there to satisfy a few people, but also to use it for what it's intended for, which is to seek outside money to solve some of the problems.
Thank you, Mr. Painter. Mr. Weber?
There's a couple of candidates. One wants to repeal the master plan, and a couple of them want to put in moratoriums, sweeping moratoriums. And I don't support either one. I believe you do that when you can't come up with an alternate course of action that you can present to the council. I mentioned these transportation corridor districts, helping them to design that. So if we're going to do anything with moratoriums, it should be very narrow and only in those transportation corridor districts, and apply it there. Now, the master land use plan it's very, very critical. It doesn't have the force of law. It's a resource document that we can use to plan with, but it has to be in place. And if you don't believe how important that is, let's ask our neighbors to the north what happens when you don't have these plans in place and you lose hundreds of thousands of dollars for the residents under the NFIP program. So no, it doesn't have the force of law. I don't support everything that's in it, but with my experience from the past, especially with the Airport Commission, if you don't have a capital investment plan and if you don't have a master plan in for your organization, you don't have that systematic, constantly putting in these projects in there, and you stay in a perpetual state of planning. So even though it's not perfect, we should never be without it because it is linked to so much other funding and linked to so much other benefits for all residents of Ascension Parish.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Mr. Quintmall?
All right, so I'm gonna say it slow. Repeal and replace. Okay, this is done within the same meeting. When you adopt a new master plan, it replaces the existing one, and so we're never without a master plan. Okay? The master plan is based on guiding principles that reflect the citizens' core values. The principles were created through the citizens' input that informed the plan's recommended actions. Okay? This was not met. This qualification was not met. And I was there at the meetings. I was there speaking up against it when it was adopted because this principle was not met. And I just want to point out, this master plan, when I looked at the Ascension government website this morning, has its own little slideshow, its own little part. I mean, because it has force, and it is being used. And we are using it in zoning and in planning. So if we got a plan we're going to use, how about having a plan that the citizens actually want? Because I watched comment after comment after comment get pushed to the side, and what was adopted had nothing to do with any of those comments. It's long overdue that we go out into the different parts of the parish and say, hey, citizen, taxpayer, what do you want your Ascension Parish to look like? Because the plan that we should have should represent your beliefs, your wants, because you should matter. Okay? I shouldn't have a group somewhere else tell us what Ascension Parish needs to be. We should ask the citizens what it needs to be, and this plan is being used in zoning and planning efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinball. Mr. Diggs?
Yes, I don't agree with the master plan in that the people was not involved in creating the master plan. It doesn't show a vision for the future. It only shows how things are going to be connected. And the main thing, it doesn't show any connectivity. It doesn't connect what's already here that needs repair to what they want to do in the future. It doesn't show any core value. And it wasn't put together as a smart plan. Yes, I do believe we need a master plan, but I believe that master plan should be a smart plan. It should be specific, it should be measurable, attainable, realistic, and it should be time-bound. It should be something that the citizens of Ascension Parish would be proud to have. It should be something that they help put together so that they could be part of the team also. The master plan did not use the citizens of Ascension Parish to develop it, and I think that's its downfall.
Thank you, Mr. Diggs. Moving on to the fourth question of our Q&A portion of the forum. Mr. Weber, what is your position on the most recent effort to bring parish-wide sewer to Ascension Parish, and please explain why you support or oppose that effort?
I support the effort. The only place that I've seen with a population the size of Ascension Parish government that has open sewers was Kabul, Afghanistan, so I think we can do a little bit better than that. But this project has bounced around for about 3 decades in Ascension Parish. And I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that I'm the subject matter expert on putting the system in place, because I'm not. What I'm looking at is this. Right now they're trying to come up with a payment structure. And initially it looks like it's going to have about 10,000 to 12,000 customers on it, but it's going to need about 35,000 customers to pay for itself. Another major challenge with it is that the Public Service Commission is wanting the parish to assume all of Ascension wastewater as systems, and some of those systems are in Livingston Parish. That's a challenge. Well, since we've stretched this out so long, the council has got till October to make a decision before they start losing that grant money that DEQ granted to them. That's about $60 million. We had about 30% on engineering and probably about a 10,000-foot level on what a financial model looks like. Now, most municipalities that build in sewer systems also have water to go with it, and we don't. Baton Rouge Water owns the water rights, most of them, here in Ascension Parish. But, 3 decades of bouncing this thing around, I look at it internally, from an internal management system. And it's continuity that always comes to my mind. Every time that I think about this sewer system, it's been bounced around inside of parish government from person to person, and there's no follow-through with it. And now you're getting to a point where you're about to lose the entire program because it didn't have any continuity and somebody in place that was qualified to push it through. So that's the key things that I'm looking at in Ascension Parish government. I'm trying to scream it from the rooftops that we need to look at the basic operating systems of Ascension Parish government and put leadership back in it to make it happen. So that's my point of view on the sewer system. There's going to be a platoon of engineers and architects that's going to advise me on the technical aspects of it. I need to look at it from a management aspect of it moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Mr. Quinmall?
There's not a single candidate up here who has seen the cooperative endeavor agreement. Not one. Do we need parish-wide sewer? Absolutely. But until I've seen the plan and seen the details, how can I, in any form or fashion, say that I support it or not? There is tons of answers. But we've been doing this for 30-plus years, right? I mean, everybody's been around. This went back to I remember, very first parish president. We discussed this. We discussed it having at Lamar Dixon. We discussed it at the property being donated to the parish. We got about $20 million in the ground right now that we have paid for, okay? It's on Highway 73 and Highway 42. We know that we have to have a sewer treatment plant. In my opinion, and what I plan to do is lock in the 60, start with the sewer treatment plant, and we have about $15 million in cash on hand, and start moving forward with the location of the sewer treatment plant and the building of that plant while we work out the details of the situation that has occurred. We can't start having customers until we actually have a sewer treatment plant that can service those customers. The most important part to me in sewer is that the Ascension Parish citizen is protected, because fees are taxes. You don't get to vote for them. Fees are taxes. And when your sewer bill goes from $40 to $85, people are going to start looking who to blame. And I want to make sure that we have the best deal in place for the Ascension Parish resident who pays those taxes. Thank you.
Mr. Diggs?
Yes, the sewer system's idea starts off with that Ascension Parish need a modern, cost-effective, environmentally responsible, consolidated sewer system. I'm in agreement with that. We do. But we don't just need it for part of the parish. We need it for the entire parish. And I think anything going forward need to include the whole parish in the development of a regional sewage system, and not just a select few or a select area. Everyone, the whole parish, should be part of the new sewage system. I don't think the plan that's in place now, that's calling to provide sewage for 35,000 people, I think it's for everyone. When we say something is environmentally sound, you can't have one group over here where waste is going in the ditch and the other one over here. I think we need to take care of the entire parish and not just a select few. And that's the problem I think we have in most of our things that we're doing in the parish. Instead of looking at the entire parish, we piecemealing it, doing a part here and doing a part there, where everything needs to be connected. We need to have a vision for the future, and we need to follow that goal for each and every area that the parish represents.
Thank you, Mr. Diggs. Mr. Painter?
Well, first off, again, I want to say, we're not in Disney World. Money solves all problems. In the 1970s, I was around here when the first issue came up on water and sewage, and if we'd have took that opportunity back then, we wouldn't have a problem now. We haven't taken that opportunity. There's other opportunities that wasn't taken, and I'm not going to fault anybody for that or whatever along the line. We missed a lot of opportunities. There was one plan a few years ago that was $800 million. Right now, we have an opportunity where someone's willing to come in here and put up $225 million of their money to try to put a plan in that takes care of 19,000 places. Possibly 2,500 to 3,000 of those are not in Ascension Parish, which is creating an issue with the formulas or whatever at this particular point in time. But the company that's wanting to do it, as far as I know, is a good company, and we need to vet this thing and see whether we're going to allow them to do that. Because every day that we don't, the cost of doing this goes up, and the opportunity of doing it goes further and further and further away. And you can argue that fees or taxes or whatever you want. But the bottom line of all our problems are roads, drainage, and everything else is somebody has to pay the tab for that. I mean, that money we don't make money. We're not the federal government. So everything comes with a cost. And if these people are above board, and which I think they are, and that they have a plan here that is valid to take care of a third right now of the people in this parish, then I would be more than willing to say that I'm for that to happen, instead of waiting another 5 or 10 years to get to a point and argue where we back up to $1 billion cost.
Thank you, Mr. Painter. We're back to you, Mr. Quinmall. The previous questions have addressed 4 major issues the next parish president will face while in office. Using one of those issues as an example, please explain how you plan to work with the parish council, our legislative delegation, and other community stakeholders like the Chamber of Commerce to implement your solutions.
Drainage protection is one item that I don't know of a single current councilman or council candidate that doesn't want improvements in their district on drainage. The drainage maintenance program and how I'll have it set up is that when they identify problems in the council district, they will forward that, photos and a description of that item, and then a follow-up of the corrective measures to that council member on how that was addressed. They will know exactly when we're cleaning in their district to ensure that they're up to date constantly so they can make the best decisions from a council standpoint on how we protect our citizens from drainage. It's very crucial that our next parish president works with this council and ensures that we move forward in a very professional way. I think drainage is by far the most, because 2016 is not the only time people have flooded. It's not the only time that businesses have shut their doors because of it. It's not only time that insurance companies have had to come in. And I can tell you now that some people don't recuperate. Some people don't rebuild. It absolutely destroys their life. And I've witnessed it. I've been in their homes. I've talked to them. And look, we can get stuck in traffic, right? Let me force you out of your home with drainage water so you can go stay in a hotel somewhere and try to carry on a normal life. It's literally impossible. Many of you in this room flooded and understand how a devastating impact. There was people on fixed incomes, and they're still not back in their homes, and they just simply can't afford to fix them. It's a devastating thing, and I think that's one of the most important things for a parish president to do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Diggs?
Yes, sir. One of the most important thing I see as working toward as parish president is working with the sewage system. The sewage system is one of our most immediate action that we need to take care of because we're poisoning our water. We're poisoning any water that can come in. And once we take care of the sewage system, it gives way to take care of the drainage system. Once you take care of the sewage system, then you can use covers in our main ditches. Instead of having unique and awkward equipment on the road to clean the ditch, we can put covers down, cover the ditch up, because all of the sewage system been taken care of. Also, it will help alleviate traffic, because a lot of the corridors that have ditches on both sides, if we take care of the sewage system and put covers down, we can increase the width or the path of the highway that's going through there. We can increase the width of the traffic that can go on that particular highway. For instance, if you look at Bro Road, it has 2 big ditches on both sides. If you take care of the sewage going down both sides, then take care of the drainage, you can cover those ditches up and add more area for traffic to go flow back and forth on the highways. And I think we can do that as a parish to start developing a way to improve our traffic, our drainage, and take care of the sewage.
Thank you, Mr. Diggs. And I just want to remind candidates, the issue is important, but please focus on how you're going to specifically work with parish council and community stakeholders to implement those solutions.
Please do the whole question again, because I'm a little off on it.
Yes, so based off of the previous 4 questions, we've covered 4 major topics: traffic, drainage, land use planning, parish-wide sewer. Using one of those as an example, please speak specifically to how you're going to work with the parish council, legislative delegation, and other community stakeholders like a Chamber of Commerce organization to implement your solutions.
Well, certainly all of them are massive and all of them are most important. But let's talk about drainage because I can capsulize that in the format that you're saying. I see the parish president as a person that provides data, valid data and information to the council first for them to make a valid decision or give them the opportunity to deal with whatever the problems are with the power that they have. The only time that I would want to use a veto in any situation would be if they are passing a law or something that disenfranchises a group of people or an area in the parish adversely. For 17 years, I worked in the Louisiana legislature with 144 state senators and representatives. I know that system inside and out. During the tenure that I had with alcohol and tobacco control, I proposed probably 10 or 15 bills that were as controversial as could be that impacted the industry people, which is what we're talking about, Chamber of Commerce, the people that are in business. And what I did before I approached any of those things was to go to those business people first, bring them in with the data, show them exactly what the deal was, what it's going to do, what the impact was going to be on those, and get the buy-in of them. Give them the opportunity to talk and change it before it becomes an issue in the public or something on the floor of either the legislature or what would be the parish council meeting in an argument or a fight. Get everybody together before you get to the point of trying to pass a bill where everybody's on the same page. And I think I have uniquely the qualifications to do that at the state level and also with the parish council.
Thank you, Mr. Painter. Mr. Weber?
Yeah, I want to pick up transportation to kind of elaborate on what the public voted down a road tax and may have done it twice, and they did it because I don't think that they have enough confidence in the ability of parish government to internally take care of some of its most expensive and valuable infrastructure. And let me give you an example. We got 500 part-time and full-time employees in Ascension Parish government, but only 2.8% of those employees are there to take care of our most expensive infrastructure, our road and bridge. Now, what I want to propose to the council and what I want to work with the Transportation Committee is to increase the power and the ability for these people to go out and maintain that infrastructure. If we can start maintaining and actually doing some of these smaller road projects ourselves, then we can increase financial capacity to hire engineers to get some of the bigger ones out of the way. Yeah, I definitely want to work with the Capital Area Road and Bridge District. I want to work with the Planning and Zoning Commission to advise them to do that. But we've got to look at how can we do things more internally with force account labor and equipment and material to kind of close that $40 million gap that we have in roadway infrastructure, so we can hire more engineers to get that done. Why wouldn't we not want to partner with the chamber? I mean, you guys are subject matter experts that can give us the data that we're looking for, especially in development and all other services that you have. So to me, the key to me is that I always want to advise the council and all the committees to try to be as self-reliant and operationally independent in parish government as we possibly can be. That's what builds capacity in what we do. And until we do that, the voters will never have confidence in our ability to be able to maintain our most expensive and important infrastructure. To me, that's critical. So I'll work with all agencies on that.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. For the final question of the night, Mr. Diggs, you're going to start us off. So please explain what qualifies you to run the multi-million-dollar business of Ascension Parish, which is Ascension Parish government.
The main thing that qualifies me, that separate me from my candidates that's up here with me, is my leadership ability. I've been successful as a leader in the military, in the school system, in my community, and in the job that I have now. I lead men and women. And being a leader with a vision is what Ascension Parish needs. We need to be able to have a vision of what we want Ascension Parish to do. We need to bring people together and get people involved. Make sure that people are updated as to what we're trying to do, what direction we're going in, and make people part of the team. Make Ascension Parish one parish, not a West Bank and an East Bank, but Ascension Parish. Bring Ascension Parish back to what our forefather wanted it to be. It didn't want us to follow another parish. It's Ascension Parish. It wants Ascension to be above the other parish. We need to have the unique idea and the vision to move forward and not wait on someone else to tell us what to do and how to do it. We need leaders who's willing to step out and be a leader and lead from the front and not to back. Someone who can rally the troops and get them to do right simply because it's right. Someone who brings integrity, respect, and honesty, and you can examine my past. I have a past that's easily examined from the students I taught, the men I led in the military, and the men and women I'm leading into work each and every day now. I'm a leader, but I don't want to be served. I want to lead from the front.
Thank you, Mr. Diggs. Mr. Painter?
Well, my qualifications, I'm the only one up here with a degree in, master's degree in public administration, and I've been in public service my entire adult life. If you put it all together, it's probably over 40 years. I've already led hundreds of public employees in 2 different situations. I've already had budget situations of hundreds of $1 million. I've dealt with the economics of business that totaled $260 billion and dealing with the issues of the things that you need to do to get them on your side and support what you want to do for the betterment of the people. I'm a boots on the ground guy. I lead from the front, and when you're leading from the front, you get shot at plenty of times, and sometimes when you get shot at, you find yourself in a situation where the best thing to do is to go on to the next situation where you can change the culture of what's going on. Everybody's talking about what's needed in this parish and parish government is a culture change, especially with the employees, the 450 employees, which, ladies and gentlemen, we have some of the best people and best employees anybody can have in this parish. They are begging for leadership. They're begging for somebody that knows how to go there, grab them by the hand, train them, teach them, put them in a position where they can work and do their job. And I'm the man that's done that twice before in 2 different organizations successfully of changing the culture. And I'm more than willing to step up and do whatever it takes to lead from the front, boots on the ground, and do the same thing for Ascension Parish government.
Thank you, Mr. Painter. Mr. Weber?
Yeah, look, take away the 21 years of leadership in the U.S. Army, just put that aside. Take away the 3 degrees and an MBA. I've already led Ascension Parish government. Most recently in Tropical Storm Barry, when the administration was in Las Vegas, and it was me and Gwen LeBlanc by ourselves leading Ascension Parish government. I've done that. I've done that for every disaster that we have since 2007. When the parish president got up and said we had a disaster, he turned the floor over to me, and the instructions came from the Emergency Operations Center. I've worked extremely well with every employee in Ascension Parish, and we have the ultimate respect for every one of them that do that. Now, I agree with Murphy. I mean, we need to resource and train and make sure that these guys have everything that they need to do their job. They're willing to do that. What I need to look at is from an HR perspective. I know we need to improve HR the way that we're doing it. We need to make sure that we evaluate these guys fairly. I mean, they want to get recognized for a job well done, and I don't think that they're doing that. And let me give you a prime example. I've done well with my HR evaluations in the Office of Homeland Security. I had all my job descriptions written, and I got a telephone call from HR and says, look, send me your job descriptions, send me your evals. We're redoing job descriptions. That's okay. I sent them my job descriptions. They copied, and pasted my job description, put it on their form, and sent it back to me in the same format. So I got a minor in HR, so I want to be able to help them do that. Leadership is the key. I've been screaming it from the rooftop that we need leadership, we need integrity, we need to resource, and we need to train our employees to do the job that we know that they want to do. They're fabulous guys. I've got the ultimate amount of respect for each and every one of them.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Mr. Quinmall?
Talk about qualifications. Who am I accountable to, if elected? Who do I represent? People of this parish. That is the number one qualification required. I'm gonna hire the best of the best. I'm gonna hire people with good character, integrity, and are willing to do their job and have the qualifications capable to do their job, whether it's in recreation, planning, drainage. We have got some really great employees in Ascension Parish government. They call me on a regular basis because they're completely frustrated. They watch political hires who sit next to them and then have supervisors ask them to train the political hire who gets paid more than them. They don't know what to do on a day-to-day basis. They're not directed, and they're frustrated. They're frustrated. They see that they get passed over for enhancements, new job titles, and they're frustrated, and I don't blame them. I mean, we have a serious leadership problem, and many of the candidates spoke about it. Many of the candidates work for parish government, been there. That has to change, and it has to change with the top, at the very top, and surround yourself with good, qualified people. Doesn't matter how, they can have 10 degrees, I mean, we can count degrees all day long, okay? Qualified to do their job. That's what it takes. And that's what Ascension Parish needs, true leadership. And this is an important election, there's no doubt about it. Thank you.
Thank you. That wraps up the Q&A portion of the forum. And then we're going to get into closing statements. So we're going to keep the same order that we're going. You can use this closing statement to address any issue that was brought up previously in the forum, or you can speak about an issue that was not brought up, or you can just simply close. So please just use the 2 minutes the best way you see fit. Mr. Painter, you start off.
First, I want to talk about public service and public administration qualifications and commitment to a job. In my bio, it mentioned that I was a member of the FBI National Academy of Associates and a graduate of that and the Executive Management Institute from the FBI. Last week, a friend of mine and an associate in that organization, Captain Liberto from Mandeville, was shot and killed in his job responding to a complaint. That, ladies and gentlemen, is commitment. I've spent over 33 years either with a badge in my pocket, which I still have today, or this qualification right here, which is vetted and investigated, and also background checked, where I'm with the Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement. I carry a concealed weapon permit and make a legal arrest in any state in the United States. And I'm also a private investigator with the same deal, vetted qualifications and all that. I'm committed. I'm a public administrator. I have all the experience necessary. I've been through all the deals. If you want to talk about OEP director and disasters, before there ever was an OEP director, as chief deputy of this sheriff's office, I went through 10 hurricanes, 4 floods, without a command center, without all the money that the federal government gives the OEP, and I still commanded and took care of all the needs of the people in this parish. Imagine what I could do with some money. I want to be your parish president. I'm committed to that. It's a full-time situation, And I have the qualifications and the experience to handle any of those problems, and I will with the people of this parish first in mind with any decision I make.
Thank you, Mr. Painter. Mr. Weber?
Yeah, I want to thank the chamber for hosting the forum. We definitely appreciate that. Look, when it's all said and done, this election is just a choice between old school failing policies of the past and bold positive leadership and vision for the future. You know, most of our residents have lost confidence in parish government. You can see that when you go out there and talk to them. And this is a direct result of past failures, years of past failures. Well, the root cause of these failures is poor leadership and decision-making. You know, one candidate wants to take us back to years of failing policies and procedures. I got another candidate that wants to take us back to decades ago to where these policies have failed. The other has such a minimum amount of leadership ability that it's impossible to gauge his effectiveness managing a $120 million annual budget and leading 500 parish employees. Well, these candidates are backed by the same two old political camps in the parish that have been at war forever. Well, these two political camps are not running against me. They're running against all of you, the voters. This election is your opportunity to reclaim your authority. It's your opportunity to transfer parish government back to its rightful owner, which is the taxpayer. I'm Rick Weber, and you know my qualifications. And on October 12th, I'm asking you to send a loud and clear message to these two old political camps in the parish. And that message is, I have had enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Mr. Quinmall?
I don't know about political camps, because I've never been a part of one.
Really?
No, I haven't, actually. There's not a candidate up here that's put more money in this race than me. I put well over $50,000 of my own money since 2013. You can go to the Board of Ethics site and look that up if you want. You want me to talk about skin in the game? I got it. You want to talk about fighting for people? I've been doing it. Okay? Again, you know, I represent only one group, and that's Ascension Parish citizens. And you know, there's three philosophies I started out with back in 2013. It's transparency, accountability, and responsibility. I will have the most transparent government in Ascension Parish. Okay? And I'm humble enough to tell you one of my opponents came up with a great idea. He said we're going to put every item online to have transparency. Super. I'm all for it. You know what? I don't have to come up with every great idea, but I can implement it because that's what I plan to do. Accountability starts with me, okay? And then it starts with my supervisors. It starts with every worker for Ascension Parish that gets a taxpayer check to ensure that we are providing services to the people that pay the bills. Responsibility. I won't take an endorsement from a single group or elected official. The only endorsement I will take is from the voters of Ascension Parish. And I'm accountable to them and them directly. I will not pass up this opportunity to move this parish forward if I have the honor to be elected. Early voting starts Saturday. Saturday, September 28th to October 5th, excluding Sunday. If you're tired of sitting in traffic, go vote. If you're tired of flooding, go vote. If you're tired of lack of leadership in this parish, go vote. Let your voice be heard. Thank you.
Mr. Diggs?
Yes, again, I would like to thank you for having this forum. And I want everyone to know that all of the candidates point to me as being a leader because my job title, Senior Maintenance and Turnaround Coordinator. I coordinate things. I bring changes in. I can bring changes to Ascension Parish that will elevate us to another level. I bring in real change because I'm a candidate who has not accepted any donation or any endorsement. I'm working for the people. And if you select me as your parish president, I only owe to the people. I want to serve the people, and I have a reputation of serving the people. I bring true change because I'm not familiar with the system. I'm not familiar with the processes of politics. I'm not a politician, I'm someone from the outside, a working man, and just like you are a working man or a working woman, looking to make a better and a difference in our community, looking for a better place for our children and our grandchildren. I bring real change, true change, and positive change. And the change I bring is pure. I don't have any other prerequisite except to serve the people of Ascension Parish. If you can find it in your heart and you see where I stand at and you agree with it, please vote for Ricky Diggs for your next parish president. My number is number 78. Please vote 78 for true change, real change, and positive change for Ascension Parish. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And that brings us to the end of today's forum. On behalf of the Ascension Chamber, I want to say thank you for participating today. Also, and it's probably more important, thank you for your willingness to serve the people of Ascension Parish. We truly do thank you, and we wish you the best of luck in the upcoming election. Also want to extend a special thank you to Ascension Parish Government and Ascension 21 for airing today's forum. I also want to remind voters, it was mentioned earlier, but early voting starts this Saturday, September 28th, and runs through October 5th, with the October 12th primary to follow. So on behalf of the Ascension Chamber of Commerce, thank you for tuning in.